Imagine this Prince Harry, the same man who once insisted that stepping foot in London without a full security team was a risk too great to take, caught on a humble doorbell camera, wandering the streets alone. No entourage, no flashing lights, just Harry knocking on random doors like a tourist who took a wrong turn and lost both his GPS and his pride. It was one of those moments that didn't need headlines to feel surreal. The irony was rich. After dragging the British government to court for denying him taxpayer-funded protection, here he was walking a half-mile stretch trying to find a friend's house like he'd never even heard of Google Maps. And let's not forget, this wasn't years ago, which was after he'd argued in court that, despite leaving royal duties, he still deserved the same level of protection as if he hadn't. In his mind, being born royal meant a lifelong safety net. The judge didn't agree. "That's not how this works, mate," was the legal version of the verdict. Still, Harry didn't back down. He went public, claiming he couldn't even bring his family to visit the king unless he had security in place. He painted a picture of being exiled, locked out of the only home he'd ever known. Then came the twist no one saw coming. One afternoon, there he was, unguarded and unbothered, knocking on strangers' doors in a quiet part of London. Residents were stunned. One housekeeper reportedly answered the door but didn't even recognize him. Others said he tried houses on opposite ends of the street, like he was searching for a nightclub in Ibiza, not a friend's home in the middle of the capital city. The son of a king, completely directionless, literally and symbolically. And the media, silent at first. This didn't break because of a press release. It broke because a tabloid got their hands on the doorbell footage. Okay? Then boom, front page, national reaction, collective confusion. Even former sympathizers were left scratching their heads. This wasn't just a gaffe. It felt like a metaphor. A prince who walked away from the palace thinking he could write his own future, now reduced to a figure lost in every sense of the word. Author Tom Bower, who wrote Revenge, didn't hold back. Called it Harry's mask slipping, the real man behind the media machine. Arrogant, entitled, and painfully unaware. According to Bower, the security battle wasn't about danger. It was about leverage, about control, about making King Charles look like the villain. But when the courts ruled against him, Harry didn't just lose legal ground, he lost the storyline. Now adrift from the monarchy, bouncing between media projects and PR plays. Harry looks less like a visionary and more like a man unsure of who he is without the crown. That video him knocking, hesitating, hoping someone would open the door was more than awkward. It was symbolic. A prince not just physically lost, but existentially adrift. Some tried to defend him. He was keeping a low profile, they claimed, didn't want a scene. But here's the problem. If you say you're too unsafe to walk the streets without police, then walk them alone anyway. It's not just a contradiction. It's a collapse of credibility. This wasn't just a bad look, it was a quiet unraveling. It's a moment that said more about where Harry is now than any interview ever could. You can't claim the UK is too dangerous for your family while casually ordering Deliveroo and knocking on strangers' doors without a bodyguard in sight. That's not protecting your privacy. That's staging a performance. And it's hard to believe someone who's been so outspoken about feeling hunted by the media would suddenly be so careless. Less, of course, that carelessness was intentional. Maybe calculated. Public sympathy doesn't stretch the way it used to. There was a time people genuinely believed Harry was just a wounded soul trying to break away from a suffocating system. But now, he's starting to look like a man who didn't escape the spotlight. He just found a new one and forgot that he's no longer the lead in the story, especially when his actions constantly contradict his words. One minute, he's warning the world about threats and danger. The next, he's wandering through London on foot like he's untouchable. It's tiring. And frankly, people aren't buying it anymore. Then there's the emotional leverage. What's some royal watchers now? Call outright blackmail. Harry keeps implying that the reason his children haven't seen King Charles is because he doesn't feel safe traveling to the UK without state-level security. That's a heavy claim. But when the same man is seen walking the streets solo and unguarded, all that fear starts to feel less like genuine concern and more like strategy. More like he's using Archie and Lilibet as pawns to pressure the palace. And that's exactly why voices like Tom Bowers are getting louder. To him, Harry isn't just lost. He's holding on to any bargaining chip he has left, trying to stay relevant in a world that's moving on without him. The lawsuit he filed, the one he ultimately lost, reportedly cost him over £1.5 million. But the real cost wasn't the money. It was the credibility. You don't throw that kind of cash at the Home Office unless you're desperately trying to prove something. And when that attempt backfires, you either admit defeat or double down. Harry seems to be doing both. While the mess played out in the UK, Meghan was busy crafting her own headlines. Posing at a Beyoncé concert, posting picture-perfect snaps. From date night Harry in a quirky hat, symbolic flags and icons tucked in the background, their kids' names hidden in the details. Like every photo was an Easter egg for their brand. And maybe that's the point. It doesn't feel like life anymore. Feels like marketing. Like every image is telling you not just who they are, but how they want to be seen. And when your whole identity becomes a brand, one built on struggle, injustice, and truth-telling moments like this, where reality undercuts the message, don't just sting, ... They damage the entire narrative. Because if Harry truly believed every word he said about danger, trauma, and the need for protection, then what we're seeing out in the open doesn't just raise questions. It gives us answers he probably didn't want us to find. There's just no way Harry would be casually strolling through London without a single bodyguard, lest the performance mattered more than the principle. What we're witnessing isn't just a royal gone rogue. It's a man caught between the carefully crafted image he's projected and the unfiltered reality playing out in front of us. He wants the privileges of royalty without the obligations. The safety of being a prince while rejecting the very institution that provided that shield. And slowly, that contradiction is catching up with him, not just in the eyes of critics, but in the public eye as well. Because the royal brand isn't a costume you can wear when it suits you and toss aside when it doesn't. That's what makes Harry's position so awkward, even uncomfortable to watch. He walked away, called it freedom, shared his side through interviews, books, documentaries, and yet, when the need arises, he seems to expect the same support from the system he turned his back on. And the public, they're tired. Tired of the emotional whiplash. Tired of being told they're the problem, all while being asked to fund the solution. There's a growing disconnect between how Harry sees himself and how the UK sees him. Once viewed as a wounded prince standing up to the crown, he now looks more like a celebrity clinging to a victim narrative whenever things don't go his way. And when your brand is built on authenticity, that's dangerous ground. That doorbell footage didn't just go viral because it was awkward. Went viral because it was real. Because it showed a former royal alone, lost in his own city, exposed not just physically, but symbolically. King Charles, dealing with serious health issues, has remained largely silent through it all. The nation knows. His son knows. And still, there's been no quiet reconciliation, no visit for the sake of family, no effort that feels rooted in love rather than leverage. Instead, we get legal moves, dramatic sound bites, and media theatrics. And make no mistake, Harry knows how to put on a show. Every backlash is met with a shiny counter-narrative, a surprise appearance, a smiley family photo, a headline that nudges the story in a new direction. It's a formula. Now keep the spotlight, steer the narrative, deflect when the truth hits. Too close, but the script is getting stale. People are starting to catch on. The raw honesty that once made them relatable now feels rehearsed. Even those who stood by Harry are finding it harder and harder to defend the inconsistencies. Because if you genuinely fear for your safety, why would you walk around unprotected? And if that fear is real, why refuse to pay for the protection you say you need? That's the part that breaks the illusion. That's when the mask slips. Remains is a man who wanted to break free but didn't expect the cost. Because leaving royalty isn't just about walking away from titles, it's about walking away from everything that comes with them, including round-the-clock security. The image of Harry walking solo through London wouldn't be such a big deal if he hadn't made safety the hill he was willing to fight and pay millions to defend. That's what makes this moment so striking. After lawsuits, headlines, and public pleas, it all unravels with one clip of him knocking on strangers' doors like someone who forgot their keys after a night out. And there's a message buried in that moment, one deeper than royal drama or personal pride. When you cut ties, burn bridges, and alienate the people who once had your back, you shouldn't be surprised when those doors don't open for you anymore, because status isn't permanent. It's earned, protected, and reinforced with humility and consistency. And that's what seems to be missing. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many documentaries you produce or how many memoirs you sell, respect has no shortcut. And for Harry, it seems the farther he walks from the palace, the more lost he becomes trying to find his way back.